So you've probably already seen the Nike Phantom GX by now, and while I already have talked about some of the tech in my review, I figured it'd be really nice to take an actual deep dive into a lot of the new goodness in these bad boys. And who would be better to speak to than someone who's actually worked intimately on the new Phantom GX? Emily Johnson, product line manager on the GX. Thanks for joining us.
Of course, happy to be here.
Well, it's exciting. It's not often we get to really deep dive into the product with basically someone who worked so intimately on them. I mean, you've done this for what, 2+ years?
3.5 years in the making.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for sure. We're excited about it. Should be revolutionary.
But let me jump right into it. Talk about the big thing this year, GripKnit. We've kind of seen the technology since the Flyknit Ultra in 2017. But why has it taken so long to get to this point where it's ready? And why is GripKnit so awesome?
With the process we went through when Flyknit Ultra came out, we said, hey, it's been a while since Magista. That was the original Flyknit when it came to market, right? Which has kind of infiltrated the whole football industry. We took a TPU-coated yarn in the form of Flyknit Ultra and said, players love this. It's soft, it's buttery, but it still has good touch sensation on the ball. And the team basically set out to say, hey, how can we do this at scale so that in your elite boots, you could get access to them whenever you want.
Yeah.
So that's where it came about of like, how do we keep improving on that TPU-coated yarn? We won't get too technical, but let's just say there's, to keep it really simple, like an inner core yarn and then an outside polymer to be really fancy.
Oh, plastic, right?
Plastic, basically. And if you think about Flyknit Ultra, where that started, it was like, hey, the plastic on the outside, it provided that soft, buttery feel. But as we got to GripKnit, we're like, yeah, it's soft, it's buttery, but it's grippy and durable. So we feel better about going to scale.
But what is so awesome about GripKnit? Obviously, you talk about that soft feel. And when you get it on foot, you only have to get it on foot to understand, right?
Yeah.
But what is it that makes it special? Because it kind of is the next level when we're talking knit.
Totally. There's really 3 things about GripKnit that are unreal. The first is obvious. I mean, the innovation name, believe it or not, it wasn't always that. The 3.5 years life cycle, we kind of had to fight to make it Nike GripKnit.
Okay.
But now it's an obvious thing, right? It's like, hey, one of the biggest benefits of it's grippy. We talk to players. When you're taking a player on 1v1 or perfectly weighted first touch, you want a little grippy sensation.
It's the confidence, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it has that grippiness. The second is it's almost like malleable or like soft, like that buttery sensation we were mentioning.
Feels almost stretchy,
Stretchy, where it gets on, Jay's foot, Emily's foot, whoever's foot, and it almost like molds to your foot when it's on. So we loved that it was soft and had that. And then third and super important is it has baked in weatherization. The way the high tenacity yards come together with the GripKnit yarn makes it inherently weatherized. So if you compare it, you go back to the Phantom GT, where we had to have 3 layers, one of which was a Duragon skin to provide that ACC effect. We had to, in previous generations, skin the boot to get that weatherization. Now, that's baked right into this boot. So what that means for our footballers is they're closer to the ball. They just have that better connection and sensation on the ball, right? So where maybe it was 3 layers in a previous generation, here we're able to operate with 2, with just that line, that Avail-Q liner, super thin, and then the GripKnit.
How much of a challenge was it to really balance the amount of grip versus not having it too grippy and people, falling over and stuff?
Totally. It was a exploration, like the whole process. So I've got a few protos back there where it was like, hey, we over-index. We got the boots out there.
Yeah.
It's a warm pitch.
Sure.
Sao Paulo.
Too much.
Yeah. Too much. And some of the first ones you'd go, okay, it's GripKnit. Why isn't the whole thing GripKnit?
Yeah.
If this thing was 100% GripKnit and you got the ball on it, it'd be like...
You'd fall.
Yeah. So there's this healthy balance of figuring out not only what's the ratio of GripKnit to high tenacity yarns, but also think about those high touch zones. Like, how do we optimize it in those playable spaces?
Sure. You did some other things on the GX, changed up a lot of things. What were those?
If the upper was like, hey, Hypervenom 1, maybe the apex of touch in our historical boot context, the plate, we said Hypervenom 3's got a pretty awesome sensation. And the athlete benefit here is like, think about a player that's on their toes, trying to change direction quickly. We want them to be able to be on their forefoot and this to be flexible. It's intentional, right? That it's flexible, where you have these forefoot flex grooves. The way the plate is built comes together to provide some rigidity in the midfoot with that X, right? Where you get a little more snappiness when you're trying to push off. But it's basically about trying to optimize that flexibility of the plate for that agile 9 or 10 that's changing directions to create an advantage. And it's not necessarily that quick or the fast player, right? That's a track spike.
It's not mercurial.
Yeah, it's not mercurial. It's its own thing.
Oh, yeah.
We feel amazing about fit. We're, of course, looking at the low now, but the dynamic fit has ghost lace, which we've seen before in Phantom Vision. But for us, it was about keep the close connection to the ball. So it's a connected package in the forefoot. You don't have like quad fit of the past where it was more of a floating layer. You still get that close connection to the ball. Optimize the lockdown there by adding another eyelet or lace hole so we could get a better lockdown with that high. But maybe the biggest piece is just our team was like, fit should be just about no distraction.
Yeah.
Be able to be out on the pitch, not even think about it.
Cut out the heel.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the asymmetry, and we even have some heel counters in the room we can show you, but it's like, bring the pressure off the Achilles. We all have to break in new football boots.
Yeah.
Bring the heel seam off that Achilles, which is like a pretty tough tendon and probably a place where most footballers get blisters. So think about the asymmetry and how that comes together in the heel seam, but then also the counter. We basically included we call it a promo counter, but our biggest athletes get their boots made at Multipalooza. Some have had a chance to visit, but it's kind of a special place where we make, for the highest level athletes in our portfolio, our Nike sponsor portfolio, customized boots. So we've been doing this for a while for them and said, for a great boot like this, why wouldn't we do it at scale? Yeah.
So is that kind of the mantra behind the boot? Grip and fit. Freedom of the fit.
Grip, fit, agility.
So the first thing I thought when I put this on was that, and that's the reaction we got from our members as well in the room, that it felt a lot like the Hibernian 1. That's what we immediately thought of. And it sounds like you kind of went back and took some DNA pieces at least and said, how can we get close to this, but with the technology of 2023?
Exactly right. Yeah. It's almost like Hypervenom 1. Of course, it had an innovative material with the introduction of Nike Skin.
But it was simple, right?
It was simple. We're pretty bullish on this. So we think this is maybe just the start of what we might see in terms of where we could take Nike GripKnit.
Well, that was one of my next questions. So go on. I'm like, is this, obviously this is proprietary technology. This is all Nike, right? It's got Nike, literally a Nike fingerprint on it, right?
Yes.
Where's this going in the future?
So
what can you tell us? What can you?
Yeah. I would just say like, hey, history, if you look through football history, many people, your Unisport members know this, you know this. Take what happened with Magista and where Flyknit went from there. Right. But also then from a visual or attitude, this is just the start, Travis.
Where can you improve this? And I know it's your baby, and what would you do if you had 6 more months?
6 more months?
Yes. Or a year. It's up to you.
I don't know.
Fair enough.
That's a tough one.
That's a secret because it's coming up in the next one. Okay, fair enough. Just one thing that I thought of when I stepped into this, it's so comfortable. It has this really one-to-one feel. It feels like it amplifies your sense on the ball and the ground. Did you ever consider putting zoom in it? I know what's in Mercurial, but
yeah,
did it cross your mind?
Not really, to be honest. We explored other traction technology to say like, again, we're focused in on that change of direction, agility underfoot. Sure, you could throw zoom in there, but it goes back to what is zoom doing for Mercurial in terms of, being faster for longer, right? Like what would be the benefit here? And we also want to keep our boot, just like the grip experience on the ball and the simplicity of closeness to the ball, keep them as close to the pitch as possible.
Yeah, sounds good. So there you have it, guys. You've probably seen the review. You've seen all the tech talk. Now you have the actual tech deep dive from one of the key people working on the boot. So if you want it, and I mean, you kind of have to try it to understand how wild it feels on foot. Well, as always, the link to Unisport is right over there. If you haven't subscribed to the channel with the notifications already, that sounded horrible. English is a difficult language, but you should do it. You should subscribe to the channel with the notifications on. And if you have any questions or suggestions on what Emily could do to improve the GX in the future, well, let us know in the comment section right down below as well. And with those words, we'll be signing off. Cheerio.